right. Think we ready. There's a lot I had to get up here. Even though I already had it. Just want to relax a little bit. But listen, we got a lot to go over here. But this time it's going to be more of an actual teaching session. More of a teaching session than what you normally would get. But we're going to get some of this information in so people can fall in. And we're going to go over the streams. So we're going to go down Stream Boulevard. And let's get started.
Worry as a conservative that we have put so much power in the office of the presidency that someday the wrong man could come along. And I wouldn't be so concerned about whether he could use these powers to perpetuate himself in office, but how he would use these powers to destroy people that disagreed with him, pile up voters where voters don't usually pile up. I think Johnson is fully aware of the powers that he has, and he certainly has used them and will use them. The average person doesn't understand. For example, let's take mergers. It's becoming obvious that large businesses in some areas have to get together. Now, who has the control on this? The president, in a subtle, indirect way through the attorney general and the bureau affected, so that powerful businessmen have to become beholden to the president in order to see that their business is put in a position where they can compete. If we ever reach the point of forced arbitrary settlement of strikes, you've destroyed the labor movement, put the whole handling of wages and prices in the hands of the president. This becomes a tremendous tool. And a businessman or a union leader is going to think twice before he openly opposes a man who has that power. Listen.
No comment.
This flour is one of the most inflammatory things in your kitchen right now. Let me show you what to swap it with. The flour in 90% of Americans' kitchens has been bleached with chlorine gas, stripped of every nutrients, and sprayed with the same chemicals they use to kill weeds. Isn't that crazy? So to make it look healthy again, they slap enriched on the bag and add synthetic vitamins back in, hoping we don't read the labels. That's all marketing, sis. But let me show you how we can fix it. So for your everyday baking, we use almond flour and a cassava flour for your homemade tortillas, your bread, and some cookies. And last, we have some oat flour.
Did she say tortillas? Mm-hmm. She said tortillas. Tell you, she from the country.
You can use that for waffles, your muffins, your pancakes, and it will not spike your blood sugar. Next episode, this nut butter right here is in most of y'all's kitchen and could be the cause of your inflammation. So stay tuned to find out why.
Tortillas. There you go. So you got some flour. So now you got that. Yeah. No comment.
Of your watermelon. Most people slice it off and toss it straight in the trash. They have no idea they are throwing away the medicine and keeping the candy. That white rind holds more citrulline than almost anything you can buy at a pharmacy. It pulls the swelling out of your face, your belly, and your ankles that your doctor just calls aging. Cut it into small chunks and blend it with a little lemon and cold water. Drink it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Comment yes if you want more remedies. And make sure you are following me so you do not miss a single one.
We're going to play that one again.
Never throw away the white part of your watermelon. Most people slice it off and toss it straight in the trash. They have no idea they are throwing away the medicine and keeping the candy. That white rind holds more citrulline than almost anything you can buy at a pharmacy. It pulls the swelling out of your face, your belly, and your ankles that your doctor just calls aging. Cut it into small chunks and blend it with a little lemon and cold water. Drink it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Comment yes if you want more remedies. and make sure you are following me so you do not miss a single one. Never throw.
Now, I actually know somebody that eats, not blends it, eats the whole thing, seeds included. I actually saw him eat it. Actually, it was a woman. She eats all of that. You learn something new every day.
Nothing but hard liquor, hard corn liquor, and
I don't know nothing.
if you can get you some real good hard corn liquor and make a ginger stir of that and get into bed and just sweat it out, where you'll break the flu.
Yeah, you had it. You didn't break it.
Yes, before you went to work. I thought I was dying. My feet got cold. I got up out the bed. She's going to work, and the doctor told her to make me a hot toddy. Ginger stew, and you brought me a bowl of Mountain Dew in there, hot. I drank that, and I come out from in there, buddy. The flu, yeah,
Did he say a bowl of hot Mountain Dew? He said a bowl. A bowl of Mountain Dew, hot. Okay, I guess that would kill it.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I guess that's what it was.
Tough, little bird. I made sure. The master's calling me. You know, my feet got as cold as ice, but I got up and down and standing up at the bed. But that brought it away from that. Now, I know that was good for you. And if you ever have the same year each, you'll go and get this pork salad root.
Yeah.
And boil it down till the water turns red. Just boil all the fat out. Take you a big dose of sulfur before you do it, a day or two, to drive it out your blood. Get in that water just about hot as you can stand it and take a good bath. And then grease in sulfur and lard if you can stand it. And that'll kill the 78. Me and my cousin, two cousins, we had it. Jim Bradshaw used to come and spend the night with us, you know, and he'd scratch and we talked about it.
Yeah.
And wait till my grandmother said, y'all go and get me some pork root. We dug one of these fertilized sacks. Then we was on the farm and we dug all kind of pork root, and she boiled it down, give us some of this sulfur and molasses first, 2 or 3 days before she give us this back. And we got in that tub, buddy, and it got to each too, and it looked like it was going to get me, you know. Whelps come out, but after that, it won't no more eat. It killed it. Yeah, it started killed that. So that's the remedy of eat. But children don't have that much now, do you?
No, you're talking about having no eat.
Yeah.
That's one thing without a star.
If it is, you give it a different name.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I told him about water. You catch a snail coming out of his shell and rub your thing on that, and it'll remove the water. Yeah, I tried it. And what the on one of these
You
things.
find these snails, there's already out. These old big snails already out the shed.
Yeah, and I rubbed that
Rub
on
the water
there.
on it and just let him go.
And it fell. It'll get real sore before it leaves. Real sore. What thing was on one of these things?
And for the summer complaint, get your wild, they call it wild tansy. Bruise that up and make a tea out of that and drink it with cold water, and it'll stop these cramps and stop the airtake. We have tried that and it's successful. The flu.
Man, that's wild. Wild. Said poke salad. Yep, poke. Not pork, poke. All right, let's move on.
On March 5th, at the beginning of the Iran conflict, I told you specifically that this was not about Iran having nukes. This was not about the Strait of Hormuz. This had to do with 3 specific things that the 45-47 operation was looking to accomplish. 1 was China, 2 was oil, and 3 was the Sovereign Wealth Fund to eliminate income taxes. Now, this is going to go pretty fast and pretty deep. There's some things here that I want to show you that are happening really, really fast, and it's all coming together right now. And I want to share that with you so you can maybe get a bigger picture of what 45-47 is doing with China, with Iran, with the world oil reserves, and more importantly, with the new financial system. This is going to be a good one. Let's check it out. Now, today, POTUS is heading to China to meet with Xi Jinping. Now, what's interesting about that is the timing. Not only is the Iran war still going on, I'm going to show you that's why that's significant here in a second, but I want you to pay attention specifically to the list of CEOs that POTUS has taken with him to go meet Xi Jinping and the Chinese CCP party. This is very interesting. Let's take a look. Right here, you'll see the headline: Elon Musk and many other major CEOs to accompany Trump to China. So Elon Musk is going. Let's take a look at this list. Apple CEO, BlackRock CEO, Blackstone CEO, Boeing CEO, Citigroup CEO, General Electric CEO, Goldman Sachs CEO, MasterCard CEO, Meta CEO, Visa CEO, Micron CEO. What do you notice about that list? All tech and finance giants. I told you this is about finance, and China is integral to the new system they're putting together, the sovereign wealth fund, eliminating income taxes, getting rid of the Federal Reserve as we know that, okay? The cabal control is falling. Let me prove it to you. Right here from the New York Times, the Iran war is starting to expose cracks in China's economy. Right there, even the deep state, New York Times is admitting the Iran war is cracking China. Now, do you think it's a coincidence that the Iran war is still going on, even though POTUS has told us many times it's over? Okay, why is he allowing it to continue? Why isn't he just pulling out and lowering gas prices? Because then he would lose the leverage on China that he needs right now in this moment. Again, this meeting with Xi Jinping was always going to happen. Having this Iran card still in play is key to the negotiations process. What's going to happen? They're going to make China capitulate to the new financial system. It's coming, and it's coming fast. Get ready. If you want to see more, head to my YouTube channel.
Well, how about this? So since he talked about that, how about we check this part out? See how this lines up.
Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, and Andrew Carnegie, or as I like to call them, the three godfathers of modern day American capitalism, they were not the only lying, thieving colonizers that were dooming this country to hell. But they do stand out in my mind as key players in the brand of predatory late stage capitalism that we have today. Because these three together raised all kind of hell. These three together scaled the economic system to unprecedented heights through the use of monopolies, which J.P. Morgan perfected. And they did this using human bodies and souls as building blocks and cannon fodder. Like if these three men didn't exist, I often wonder where we would be today, because so much of what is going on today can be directly traced back to the shit that they did. Now, before I get into these three godfathers and detail them for you so you know exactly who the fuck and what the fuck you're dealing with as far as their legacies are concerned, it's worth mentioning.
That's foul language.
That by the time J.P. Morgan and them came on the scene in the 1870s, the American economy was running absolutely wild. And that's because there was so much fraud going on. I mean, the fraud was like a runaway train, which is a really apt metaphor considering that it's mainly the railroad people who were causing this fraud. Go back and watch the last part for a little bit more detail on that. So J.P. Morgan steps in and he's like, you know what? I am going to appoint myself the great stabilizer, and I'm going to stabilize this economy because, and I quote, we do not want financial convulsions and have one thing one day and another thing another day. So he steps in and he starts trying to stabilize the economy. How does he stabilize the economy? Monopolies. And he creates these, he's the OG monopoly man. He creates these monopolies. And through that, he eliminates both foreign and domestic competition. He keeps prices high and he keeps wages abysmal. And we're still using that same primary model today in 2025. And by the way, speaking of Monopoly, do you have a box of Monopoly at the house? Take it out, look at it. Tell me who that Monopoly man looks like. As far as the three gods.
Okay, so let's do this. Let me correct her. All right, I'm gonna correct her real quick. So check this out. JP Morgan, it didn't start with him. Didn't end with him either. You know, his father actually worked for the Rothschilds, JP Morgan's father. You also have what you consider to be Chase, the other guy, right? It wasn't just him. Like the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, and all this, they was all in competition with each other, but they all was in different ventures, I would say. JP Morgan was the one that really dealt with the financial banking system, but that banking system he brought over from somewhere else. But his father was the accountant or the liaison for the Rothschilds here in America. You know, back in those days, there were central banks that was trying to get over here from day one. And this was the main purpose of the United States of America. How they started it was to get the central banking system in here. That's why they try to take out Andrew Jackson a bunch of times, because he was staunchly against it, and he went to war against them, literally. So what she's saying is more dramatic, if I can use that word, you know, so on and so forth. The next thing is that you're not dealing with the entirety of America. This is where people get, especially our people, they get this thing misconstrued that all of this, like what he got going on, is dealing with the entirety of America. Absolutely not. They was able to establish a foundation within the 13 colonies, right? Which created the 13 United States of America. So let's take it word by word. 13 United States of America. Okay? Because they do it, it's like a run-on sentence, but it's really, that's what it is. 13 colonies, which came to be 13 states. And then they became united with, based on the Union, right? The Union, what they call the Union. United Union within the continent or the landmass, which is called America, prior to them getting here. So if this continent was called America, then that means there had to be some Americans or people living in the body or the land of America, of Amari. All right, so, I mean, she did good. I mean, it's cool. I mean, that's why I put it up here, so that way I can, you know, constructively critique what she's saying and give some proper context to it. All right, so let's keep going.
Now come out with the list of degrees that they are saying will no longer be considered professional. The Department of Education has now come out with the list of degrees that they are saying will no longer be considered professional. And this list will take effect July of 2026. Some of the degrees that they said are no longer professional include a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, advanced nurse practitioner, nurse practitioners, a physician assistant, teachers, a speech language pathologist, and there's more. But when I saw this again, I couldn't believe it. Because what does that mean on the back end? On the back end, that means that they are attacking female dominant fields. That's a major blow right there. And secondly, people that are interested in those specific degrees will have a lesser chance in getting the federal funding that they need to get in those programs. And people voted for this. It's becoming to the point, the Department of Education has now come out with a list of.
All right. So let me correct what she's saying. Right. Number one, she said females. She didn't say black people. She didn't say nothing like that. She said females. Now, last time I checked, men apply, men go and get those degrees too. Also, you can actually go to Maxine Waters on 112th and Watts and go get some education, some certification right there. You ain't got to go to college. What is she talking about? To be a nurse, to be a medical practitioner, you don't have to do that. Now, there's another thing called workforce. There's a workforce program that is out. So I know somebody that does that you can actually get hours and work into that in education to be able to get these accreditations, certificates, so on and so forth. And then you can go work, you know what I'm saying, at a medical place, whatever you want to call it. You see what I'm saying? Like, what's up with these sisters? They come out here, they sit here, they want to gaslight about something as if you can't get these same accreditations. You can get certified to do anything that you want. On top of that, you got a lot of universities right now. You can go learn this stuff for free. Right? So if you're trying to get educated in something, that's one thing. If you're trying to be an apprentice, to learn some apprenticeship, if you're trying to get some hands-on experience and actually doing something, you could do that. Do you know you can go work for anybody that's certified in their field that has 30 years or more in something, just like a construction worker or anything else? You can go work for them, and all you need is about 60 hours, not 60 hours, 60 months of work under them, and they can certify you. You could do that with a lawyer. A lawyer, you could work under a lawyer. And the reason why I know that, because I was already offered that opportunity. You could actually go up under a lawyer, work for them, put in the hours, and they can certify you. What is she talking about? See, this is the whole thing about knocking out some of these departments and all that stuff that they're putting money to that ain't doing shit for the community. She's mad about something, and I don't know what she's mad about, but she might be somebody that actually works in that field, and if she knows that that thing is cut, her job is cut. See, you know, the whole teaching aspect of things and so on and so forth, people need to be given people certifications, knowledges, hands-on skills in order to be able to be an entrepreneur and be able to handle their own business. Instead of just sitting there for 4 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, paying all this money, getting loans that they got to pay back so they can't enjoy their money. Do I need to keep going? All right, that's good enough. Let's move on.
That I'm in Israel out here in California. It's not a joke. This is real maps from a long time ago. The United States was Egypt, Babylon, Israel. I'm going to post some shit on it, so get ready, guys, because you're not going to like it. Yeah, Israel over there, that's made up. Do your math, guys. Find your facts. It's pretty cool stuff. America is definitely got more pyramids than any other place in the world. We know the Grand Canyon's special and totally hidden. Doesn't just only make sense. All the same names that are over there, over here. Cities, states, areas, lakes. It's cool stuff. So, makes sense, Israel. Kind of hot like Israel. Kind of dry like Israel. But it's not, it's Ramona. Anyway, I've got a couple videos I'm going to post on that you guys will either love or hate, and I don't care either way. Because I'm kind of into learning. I've been like this since a little girl. I can't worry about what other people are thinking and what your opinion is on it. I only know what me and God are talking about all the time, and my discernment is very deep for listening to that first. I do accept everything from people too, in disregard for the fact that humans lie or embellish or aren't fully truthful. So, that being said, it's pretty incredible when you learn the history, folks, of the world and what a lie it is. It's all a lie. So you can be offended and outraged, or you can say, well, teach me. I want to learn. And you can start on your own. There's tons of it out there. Gosh, just starting in the Bible, just the way it describes areas and lakes and regions and how many corners. And then you go to the area and go, there's not even any lakes over there. How is it that? So it's fun stuff, folks. Lots of people speaking on things nowadays. Mm-hmm. So you can find anything anywhere. But I love it.
Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying. See, when so-called black folks say something like that, people think they're crazy. See, that's what I'm saying. You're going to believe that white woman right there. That's that kryptonite. That's that kryptonite, that white people kryptonite. You feel me? That's what's going on. You're going to get some of that white kryptonite. Yeah, go tell them they lying. They obviously created America and is in control of everything. Everything you see on TV, you see them. They're the beginning, the middle, and the end. So take that with you.
To think they really don't want us to know this, because Memorial Day, the one we celebrate with fireworks and long weekends, it has Black roots that were never taught. After the Civil War ended in 1865, Union soldiers had been held prisoner at a racetrack in Charleston, South Carolina. More than 250 of them died there, but the Confederates just buried them in mass graves. No names, no ceremony. So 28 Black men, newly freed from slavery, spent 2 weeks digging them up and gave every single soldier a proper burial. They built a fence around the graves, and above the entrance, they wrote "Martyrs of the Race Course." Then on May 1st, 10,000 people showed up. 3,000 Black school children led the way, singing, carrying flowers, honoring soldiers who died for their freedom, making this the first Memorial Day. That happened 3 years before the government made it an official holiday. And for a long time, it was erased from history on purpose. So the next time you see a Memorial Day parade, think about the foundational Black American men, women, and children who held the first one. Share this with someone who thinks Black history starts and ends in February.
See, all that's good. See, another sister right there. Slavery. You telling me some people with no shoes on, torn pants, torn shirt, in a shack eating chitlins was given hold on. Given a uniform to go fight. They went out there and go fight, and they looking like that right there, right behind it. They went and digged up them graves. Nobody did nothing. They was fighting for their freedom. If you take a quarter of that and say, oh, you need us to fight for you so we could be free, go die for us that been whooping your ass for your freedom. But when common sense ain't common, it just ain't common. But there's always a slavery in the picture. Sorry. But I'm not sorry. Check this out.
Just pass the law. If you're homeless, you get an automatic 2 years in the penitentiary, and you get to go out and pick cotton, because that's what they do in the penitentiaries down there in Alabama and a few other them.
Now, you know this is Eddie Griffin. Now, you know he's a comedian, but he ain't joking.
Passed the law, if you're homeless, you get an automatic 2 years in the penitentiary, and you get to go out and pick cotton, because that's what they do in the penitentiaries down there, Alabama, and a few other southern states. So let's just cut through the chase. They just legalized slavery. That's all. Slavery is back under new motherfucking names called homelessness.
You know, one of the things that we can also say is that Scripture doesn't necessarily follow the politic or the policy of some, even in deep red ruby states. I wanted to throw this up about Louisiana, and there is a state house bill that's advanced that would force unhoused people to choose between jail or a treatment program. If they choose treatment, they have to pay for it themselves. And if they can't afford to pay, they'll be forced to do unpaid labor.
That's slavery.
But you done drove up the price for a house so motherfucking high, and the wages staying the same, that they can't afford a house, so of course they're gonna end up homeless, and now you got motherfucking homeless to slavery. Which used to be drugs to the penitentiary. Now it's homeless to slavery. Fuck you. If you're homeless in Louisiana, please go knock on a relative's door and see if they'll let you stay there. Because otherwise, you're going to be picking cotton.
If you think that they'd get rid of a prototype like this that works significantly for them, most effectively, especially at a time like this, you are out of your goddamn mind. And I'm not talking about slavery. Mostly, I'm talking about the convict leasing period and the prison industrial complex that empowered most of the most significant powerhouse corporations today. Prototypes like that, where proceeds not paid to laborers was able to go forth and rebuild the entire South. This is well done.
All right, let me pause that because this is intense, right? Let me pause this for a second. Now, what I want you to think about what he's saying, what he just said, and what Eddie Griffin said, is that you have people, right? Like this guy on the screen, that guy with the earphones on. He is, I think he's a rep in Louisiana. He's an elected representative, and he's powerless. He can't do nothing about it. This is what I'm saying. All these places in the South, what you consider to be the South, the Midwest, these so-called black folks, they ain't got no power over there. They can't do nothing. You know why? Because they already sold themselves out. They can't say nothing. They can't do nothing. At least out here in California, we know where everybody stands. Ain't no confusion in who we dealing with. But y'all got people that look like y'all that's, you know what I mean? Y'all. Like, you know, Eddie Griffin said, y'all. You understand? And then this goes back to what the young lady was saying about Memorial Weekend and that, and then the other lady saying, the other sisters talking about JP Morgan and all these people. You really want to know how they was able to get what they get and how they doing what they're doing? This situation right here. How can you get to a people that are so powerful that in any circumstances they're losing? Like really? Like if they actually came to us and said, "Hey, this is what we doing, man. It's a drag session. Trust me, sweeping the whole ground in the flow with them. Get out of here." I don't think so. So if that's the case, and look at this guy, he's like, well, he want to cry because he know that he's the reason why it got this way. See what I'm saying? Just like this brother said, he said, hey, convict leasing, the prison pipeline, what they've been doing. They already came out about the music industry, everything that's going on, acting, all this stuff, all this extra stuff. You know what I'm saying? You got brothers out there switching and twitching with 24-inch muscles. I mean, come on. Stop it.
Documented. mentioned this in one of my previous videos. Just one of these prototype systems translates to trillions, okay? So we're talking about fueling a mortgage market that we face predatory lending practices in houses we could never own. Think about this. This is another reconstruction period, perhaps, after a different type of war, a new war, without new purpose.
So, and then he jumped right into the mortgage situation. Right? And this is where we're going to go. That's leading me up to where what we're going to be talking about today. Another reconstruction. And you know, if I go back, we could go back to what I was showing before about these niggas that's up here that's in represented position, dude that teaches at Harvard that's over here crying about something that's going to get snatched from him. He's worried. Not about us. He's worried about him. See, they had an agreement. And they carried out that agreement for, what, 60 years? And now it's up. They did their job. They was able to put us in a corner with no way to get out. We've been stuck at 12 to 14% of the population for how many years? I think ever since civil rights. They started doing this and saying black people are 12 to 13% of the population. So sad. Let's move on.
From an African-American woman living in the U.S., a Democrat. And she said, Brother Bolson, my grandmother marched in Selma, Alabama during the Civil Rights Movement so that I could have the right to vote, she said. I'm raising 2 kids on a hospital tax paycheck. She said, I don't vote blue because I love the Democrats. I vote blue because the Republicans are coming for my son's Medicaid. She said, I vote blue because they're coming for my daughter's education, her library books, and so forth. She said, you say that both parties are part of the same system. Maybe so, but what are you actually offering me, she said. What are you offering somebody like me in November or in an election year? Not some Islamic civilization 100 years from now, but this week, right now, here and now in America, when I'm about to cast my ballot. Okay, first of all, I'm not running for office. I know you got used to selling your vote in exchange for promises, in exchange for IOUs. Meanwhile, your politicians, by the way, are selling their policy decisions for cold hard cash. They're selling their policy positions for board positions and corporate shares.
Check. Right. Hey, I didn't say it. He said it. I didn't say it. He said it.
And so forth. But you got used to being appeased and you got used to being catered to with pretty sounding words. And now you want me to use those same pretty sounding words as if I want something from you. There's no transaction here. I don't want anything. Okay. Now, first of all, let's be clear about something. Your grandmother did not march in Selma, Alabama for the right to vote. No. I know that's what you've been told. I know that's what the textbooks say. That's what the legends all are. That's what the speeches and the documentaries and whatnot about the civil rights movement tell you. But obviously, nobody is going to take a billy club to the side of the head just for the right to put a piece of paper in a box. No one is going to bleed on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in exchange for the privilege of pulling a lever in a booth. That's not what she was doing out there. That can't be what she was doing out there. Not at all. No, she was marching for what voting was advertised to her to be. You understand? For what they told her voting was. They told her that it was a process by which her voice could be heard, by which her presence in that country would be acknowledged, would be recognized, a process by which she would count in America. She marched for representation. She marched for dignity. She marched for respect. She marched for citizenship in the full sense of that word. She marched to be a person whose existence in that country could actually shape the way the country operated. You understand? So then ask yourself, did voting deliver that? Did voting deliver any of that? No, what she marched for, you still don't have. That's the truth. So now all you did was inherit a ritual, a voting ritual, an election ritual, and you call that her legacy. So now you go out every 2 years, every 4 years, and you perform that ritual. I mean, that's like if your grandmother fought for the right to chop wood so that she would have lumber to build a house, right? She fought for the right to chop wood. And now 60 years later, you're still going out chopping wood, stacking it up, but the permit to build the house never came, and it never is coming. But you keep chopping anyway because you think that's what your grandma fought for. No, that's not what she fought for. She didn't fight for the right to chop the wood. She fought for the right to have a house, to build a house. The chopping of the wood is a means to an end, and you keep confusing the means with the end. And the people who are running the system are very happy that you're getting those two things confused. Voting is not what she fought for. It's not what any of them fought for. Representation is what she fought for. Dignity is what she fought for. Respect, participation. That's what she stood for, and that's what you should be standing for today.
I'm going to stop right there. It's a whole nother segment. We'll say that for tomorrow. But this is the whole thing that we've been talking about. When you're voting for representation. The people that you vote for are supposed to go in and do something that you want or you demand or you get to a clear understanding of what. How do I say this? Let me say it a better way. You vote for somebody that promised you that when they get into that office of representation, they will do this, this, and this. And those things have been laid out by all of the people that decided to vote. Now, you take a census. This is why I tell you, go take a census, a poll of how many so-called black people actually vote versus the ones that don't vote. Watch the numbers. But guess what? The same people that vote get the same thing the people that don't vote. Because if that wasn't the case, then he wouldn't be saying this. Now, let's move on. Now, we're going to get into this real quick, right? Now, this might be a shot to Texas because they always say, don't mess with Texas. Everybody think that Texas is everything, especially when it comes to brothers and sisters. They think Texas is Texas. Well, let me tell you what Texas is. Now, I'm going to replay this. I played this yesterday. I'm going to play it again. So check this out.
Because this is about racism. And if you can't hear it from them, then hear it from me.
Now, them is black people.
As a white woman and a daughter of a man of privilege and power, he knew that his strength was to bring people that didn't look like him to the table of government.
All right, that's enough of that. Now, let's go check out who she is. All right. Boom. Here she is. There she go. Ann Johnson. Check this out. This is who is speaking for these black people in Texas. And pretty much for black people, period, obviously. Okay, so this is Annette Elizabeth Johnson, born August 13th, 1974. Number one, she's an attorney and politician number two. So that's 2 strikes. She is a member of the Democratic Party. All right. Johnson is also an adjunct professor of law at South Texas College of Law, Houston. There's supposed to be a lot of black folk there. A lot of black folk. All right. So she's in politics and she's still practicing law and teaching law, which is against the Constitution. Nobody that has a bar or teaching law or is affiliated with law in regards to what we consider to be the attorneys in the British accredited registry cannot hold office. That's in the Constitution, right? And it's also in the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, F-A-R-A. That's number 3. Okay. Let's come down here to these people. Early in her legal career, Johnson worked as an attorney, and her last name is Johnson. How many white people you know with the last name Johnson? Yeah, not many. Worked as an attorney for politicians Mike Martin, Craig Island. Look at him. That's KKK written all over right there. That guy right there. Jack Brooks. Oh, yeah. Look very KKK to me. Johnson also worked in the Office of Legislative Affairs during the Clinton administration. There you go. That guy had fun in the White House. How about that? And in the Harris County District Attorney Office. Johnson successfully argued the case of a minor charged with prostitution in the 2010 case NREBW, in which the Texas Supreme Court found that Johnson's client had not committed a crime because she could not legally consent to sex. In 2020, she was elected to president to represent District 134 in the Texas House of Representatives, succeeding Republican incumbent Sarah Davis. Let's come down here a little bit. Personal life. Johnson is the daughter of former state representative Jake Johnson and former judge Carolyn Marks Johnson. Johnson married artist Sonia Quayler in 2015 after the legalization of same-sex marriage. Now let's come back over here. There she go. Let's blow it up a little bit. There she go. There she go. All right, let's continue.
And so 50 years later, after Barbara Jordan, aided by white people to have a voice.
Barbara Jordan. We're going to get to her in a minute.
The first woman of color elected to the South, a woman who sat in the impeachment of Nixon, a woman.
Now, anybody from Texas or anybody that has any American historical research experience, is that true? She is the first woman of color, right? Because she didn't say black or anything. She said a woman of color. No? See if we can do that.
Who said that finally, after amendment, debate, and vote, I am finally part of we the people.
Finally part of we the people. All right, so let's go take a look at Barbara Jordan. So Barbara Jordan, here she is right here. Barbara Charlene Jordan was an American politician, attorney, and educator, a member of the Democratic Party. She was the first African-American elected to the Texas Senate since Reconstruction. So that means before Reconstruction, there was actually people that looked like her in representation. The first Southern African-American woman elected to the House of Representatives, and one of the first two African-Americans elected to the U.S. House from the former Confederacy since 1901. alongside Andrew Young of Georgia. All right. Now, let's see what we have right here. Now, I'm being constructive with this. Just going to break this down. Okay, she was born in the Fifth Ward. Right? She was born in the Fifth Ward, neighborhood of Houston, Texas. Jordan's childhood was centered on church life at the Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church. Her mother, a teacher in the church, and a maid. Her father was Benjamin Jordan, a Baptist preacher and a warehouse worker. All right. So, under the circumstances, what I'm getting at is that you have a lot of people, and we go through the whole line of what we just went through with these streams. You have a whole line. Then you have this woman sitting here who obviously don't like men, obviously work for people that look like they could be Klan members, that came out and spoke real loud and boisterous, and nobody stepped forward. Not one sister said, hey, hush. But she said that can't nobody talk. Can't nobody talk over here, so let me talk for them. Now, let's go back to Louisiana. In the situation where we dealt with what Eddie Griffin was showing. This is where people get a lot of things misunderstood in regards to the federal versus state, right? State jurisdiction. All state constitutions, the 10th Amendment is sovereignty, right? It deals with sovereignty. And what you got to understand is what the states are doing is they're trying to push everything on the federal government, mainly on Trump, as if he's the one that's doing these things. What Trump is doing is actually giving the state the power. So if he did anything, he's actually giving the state the power. Now, under the circumstances, if you look at it by the way of the rule of law works, if the state has the power, that means the state legislation is the one that's making these calls. But these federal representatives are making it seem as if the Trump administration is actually doing a lot of different things in order to make things hard for so-called Black people. All right. Now, based on that, what I'm just trying to show you is the misconception of how the rule of law works and how the Constitution works is being really over dramatized in regards to how it's dealing with our people. Now, I know a lot of people really don't want to get into the conversation of the Black-white situation, whether we are West African slaves or whether we are being deprived of any rights through voting, but I'm showing you too much different conversations from all different type of people that I don't think anybody knows what's going on. I think everybody's talking from an emotional standpoint. And I think what we need to do is figure out what's true, what's facts, and let's stick to the black letter of the law. No pun intended. All right. Now, that is that stream section. Now, what I'm going to do, because I'm on an hour 17, that's cool. All right. So that went pretty well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to clear out the streams, and then we're going to get into negotiable instruments. Now, what I'm going to do also, I'm going to put the link in the chat and allow people to come up here and ask me questions. I'm going to do it in 30 minutes because I'm going to knock this out in 30 minutes. So you guys put the clock on me. We're going to talk about negotiable instruments. We're going to take a ride, and I'm going to utilize Black's Law 5th. No, not 5th. I'm going to use the 4th edition. I'm going to use the 4th edition so that way we can understand what negotiable instruments are. Now, we had a conversation yesterday. You know, we got a little bit animated. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start showing a lot of different things that I've done prior so you guys get an understanding. The one thing you're going to have to know how to do at this point in time is you got to learn how to function within the system as it is today. Then you're going to have to be able to also attach your lineage and who you are and who you are not. On top of that, you're going to have to understand the language because contrary to popular belief, if you do not know what you're doing in these agreements in order to live for your personal and family use, you will become a slave. Better yet, an indentured servant. And it'll be hard to get out of it. So let me go ahead and take the camera off. Okay, so the Civil Rights Act of 1968, the Civil Rights Act, signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson during the King assassination riots. Titles 2 through 7 comprise the Indian Civil Rights Act, which applies to the Native American tribes of the United States and makes many, but not all, of the guarantees of the U.S. Bill of Rights applicable within the tribes. The act appears today in Title 25, Sections 1301 to 1303 of the United States Code. That'll be Title 25 USC, Sections 1303 to 1301 to 1303. Titles 8 and 9 are commonly known as the Fair Housing Act, which was meant as a follow-up to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So if we highlight that real quick, this was dealing with civil rights and labor law that outlines discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. It prohibits unequal application of voter registration requirements, racial segregation in schools and public, so on and so forth. All right. In parentheses, says this is different legislation than the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968, which expanded housing funding programs. Okay. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. While the Civil Rights Act of 1866, I don't know if anybody knew that the first Civil Rights Act was in 1866. Now you know. All right. Prohibited discrimination in housing. There were no federal enforcement provisions. The 1968 Act expanded on previous acts and prohibited discrimination concerning the sale, rental, and financing of housing based on race, religion, national origin, and since 1974, sex. That was when that girl was born. Ann Johnson, 1974. But seems like she benefited from the Civil Rights Act, right? You would think that. Now, so when we come over here, we just know, okay, so it says right here, Civil Rights Act of 1968, long title, an act to prescribe penalties for certain acts of violation or intimidation and for other purposes. Nicknames: Indian Civil Rights Act, Indian Bill of Rights, Fair Housing Act, Housing Rights Act, Open Housing Act, Anti-Riot Act, Federal Anti-Riot Act, Rap Brown Act, as in H. Rap Brown, H. Rap Brown Law, Civil Obedience Act, Stokely-Carmichael Act. So you have these people in here. H. Rap Brown Act, H. Rap Brown Law, Stokely-Carmichael Act, and Civil Obedience Act. Now, this is a whole nother conversation we get in another time, but we're going to deal with fair housing, FHA, which came the Federal Housing Administration. So that Fair Housing Administration must comply with the Fair Housing Act. Now, I did a ChatGPT conversation because I wanted to be straight first so we can get a clear understanding. I do have my ChatGPT programmed, not to give me fluff or anything, no gaslighting. We're going to go straight to it. So let's get to it real quick. All right. I'm going to put my camera on so you know this is real, not Memorex. Now, check this out. I'm going to get comfortable. Now, so I don't want to incorporate foreclosures, so we went straight to foreclosures. I really utilize this for court situations, so on and so forth, right? I said, I don't want to incorporate foreclosure conversation, just the function of the Fair Housing Act, FHA, Housing and Urban Development, and California. So I'm only dealing with California. I'm just focusing on California, but just know that the Fair Housing Act is national. Okay. I like that FHA is an insurance system because it did say that in the prior. It's going to reiterate it. I did not know that. Start over with that without foreclosure language and continue forward. Here you go. Says perfect. Now we're getting into the actual architecture of the system instead of just the litigation side of it. And yes, one of the biggest misunderstandings in America is that people think FHA means the government gave me a loan. But FHA primarily, but FHA is primarily an insurance structure administered through the Federal Housing Administration under the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Did anybody know that? If you didn't, if anybody had a fair house, FHA loan, under the Fair Housing Act and Fair Housing Administration, your deed of trust that you have in California, I'm saying California, in other states it might be a security deed, it might be a mortgage deed, it might be it might have a different language on it, but usually it's that. But in California, it's called a deed of trust. In a deed of trust, if you have an FHA loan, or if you got a reverse mortgage, reverse mortgages for people over 64, that actually is administered by the FHA. If you have that, you're going to see a number at the top. Now, hopefully, if you guys are taking it serious, you could take some notes. There will be a number at the top that says FHA number. The other thing you might see on there, and that number is the insurance policy number under FHA. The other thing you might see is a MIN number, MIN. That is a mortgage, what you would call a mortgage insurance number. That comes through the mortgage electronic registration system, MERS. And then you have a number that is considered to be a loan number that you're getting from whoever you're dealing with in the transaction. So let's just use a regular bank. Let's just say it's Bank of America. All right, under that circumstance. But this could be anyone, or it could be a credit union. Doesn't matter. You're going to have 3 numbers attached to that note. And we're going to get to how it originated, but for right now, we're going to deal with what this is saying right now. I just want to give it clarity. Now, the other thing that you need to check, and everybody, if you have a mortgage, you own your home, you need to see if you got the original grant deed that came from the previous owner that actually sold you the house. See if you got the original. I guarantee you don't. If you don't, go get you a certified copy. Don't deal with the one that you have in your hands that you had since you got the land in the home. Go to the county recorder's office and go get a certified copy. Whoever that grant deed was mailed to has your grant deed. All right. Now, so we ended off the government gave me a loan. It says, but, well, we did that part. Yeah. So, okay. So we got the insurance structure. Let's go down here. That changes how you look at housing, lending, development, risk, and even urban planning in California and nationally. Okay, part 1, what FHA actually is. The FHA was created in 1934 during the Great Depression under the National Housing Act. Now, we know during 1934, the Great Depression was pretty much, on its way out, you would say, because Franklin Roosevelt brought in the New Deal. The New Deal brought in the Federal Reserve Act, Social Security Act. You had all these things coming in, and it pretty much was taking place over, let's say, this 34, 33. It pretty much started in the teens, like 18, because right before Roosevelt got in, I think, what was his name that wasn't president? It was either, anyway, never mind. But the bottom line is they was putting all these things in place. And then once the Emergency Banking Act happened, then that's when Franklin Roosevelt served 4 terms because they was in a national emergency and there was a war declared. So when that happens, that's how you know a president can sit there as long as he needs to. All right. So 1934, the system has several goals: stabilize banks, increase home ownership, standardize mortgage lending, reduce lender risk, stimulate construction, and create long-term housing markets. For who? FHA, fair housing. Who? For who? If you're stabilizing banks, that means what? Kind of like 2008 when the banks went under and you had all these FA banks, all these savings and loans banks that pretty much got wiped out. And they was all bought up by all the National Association banks connected to the Federal Reserve. All right. So if you got to ask yourself the question, if fair housing is dealing with what we think is dealing with based on the definition I read in 1968 Civil Rights Act, then what does this mean? But let's move forward. Before FHA, loans were often short-term, balloon payment-based, required huge down payments, and many families could never qualify. FHA changed the game by helping normalize 20-year amortization, lower down payments, standardized underwriting, mortgage insurance, federally backed housing expansion. All right. To create confidence in the housing finance. So FHA's real function was to create confidence in the housing finance system. I want you to keep this opening in mind. Do not forget about this, because this is an overview. All right. So just keep this in mind. Part 2, FHA is an insurance model. This is the core. FHA usually does not lend the money directly. Instead, private lenders make loans. FHA insures those loans. Lenders pay premiums into the insurance pool, and the federal government backs losses. What is an insurance pool, right? So let's deal with an insurance pool. What is an insurance pool, right? This is where you get into your mortgage-backed securities, or you call it MBS. Usually those are pooled within what you will call the REMIC or the RIT. The RIT is the real estate investment trust, and the REMIC is the real estate mortgage investment conduit. These two things are created once these pools are once these insurance policies are lumped up. They bottle them up at one time, and this is just one bank now, and they put them in one thing, and your underwriter, right? Your underwriter is the investment, is the investor. Now, when you're dealing with 20 to 30 year amortization, right? Everybody knows that if you got a mortgage, it's 30 years. It's 20, really is 15 to 30 years, depending where you at. In California, it's always 30 years. Now, under FHA, you are demanded to have mortgage insurance, which is lumped up into your payments, and what is it called? What is it? Mortgage insurance and escrow. And you can't pay it yourself on the FHA. It's demanded. So when you come back down here, this is where all this is about. So when the 20, 30-year mortgage, those are indentures. Those are indentured contracts, meaning that when you're under 15 to 30-year mortgage, you are a slave or an indentured servant on your land. You have some rights to title. You have some beneficial interest, but the bottom line is you're giving these people, these private lenders who are making these loans, and we're going to get into that, who's making these loans, access or tenements or tenancy on your land. So it means they can encumber the land for 20 to 30 years. And if you do not abide by that contract, they will take it. And you indemnify them from any liability. All right, let's keep going. So the meaning, the lender's risk is partially shifted into a federally administered insurance structure. So let me translate that. I know it's going to be some more stuff, but let me translate that. That means that all the so-called risk that they're taking is insured by the federal government. So that means if they take a loss, or what they consider to take a loss, let's say if you stop paying after 90 days, on the 91st days, it becomes accounts receivable. Look it up. Accounts receivable. On the 91st day, the loan has gone into default. They then now sell the loan, sell the note, and then they get paid out, and then somebody else comes and collects off of it. Beautiful, ain't it? Now, so it says, think of FHA as a risk socialization mechanism for housing finance. Now, why did they use the word socialism or socialization? That is equal to socialism. And it's also equal to communism, because the language that they're using is embraced in socialism and communism, communal, based on those things. You could go look back at the list and we could Look at it. What are they talking about? What is the reason for them to do this? Stabilize banks, increase home ownership, standardize mortgage lending, reduce lender risk, simulate construction, and create long-term housing markets. Long-term housing markets. What is long-term housing markets? That's your 20 to 30 years amortization, long-term. You got people stuck in these 20, 30-year amortization loans that can go up and down like the Dow Jones. The market value goes up. You got people back in the 60s and 70s that bought their house for let's just deal with the 70s that bought their house for 20, 30, and even some $90,000. And now it's worth $400,000, $500,000. Why? Right? Taking it into consideration. All right, so let's go down here. Okay, why this matters? Socially. Says now we get deeper. FHA was not just about loans. It was part of a national project involving suburban expansion, land development, urban restructuring, demographic movement, construction industries, banking stabilization, and wealth creation through housing. So, what was it really for? This sounds like this was something for private investors or private companies. Better yet, the Fed. Because in 1933-34, you got HJR 192, right? You had the gold standard, and we're going to get into that. You have all these things that was being done. What was being done? They want to stabilize banking. Why? Because they filed bankruptcy in 1933. No, was it 1929? I think it was 1929. They had filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy to reorganize. And once they reorganized, this is where the Federal Reserve came in, or central banking system, really, that they titled Federal Reserve. Because it's really a central banking structure. And they had names behind it, like the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. But they called it the Federal Reserve Act. So, housing became the engine of middle-class wealth. That's why housing policy became tied to race, class, zoning, infrastructure, transportation, education, and municipal growth. Now, I thought this was about just housing. How did all these classes in zoning and infrastructure and transportation, education, and municipal growth come in? Municipal. Yeah, cities, municipalities. All right, so, okay, part 4, the contradiction. FHA expanded housing to help institutionalize segregation. I didn't say that. You saw what I asked. I ain't asked nothing about segregation or none of that. Came up with this on its own. I didn't say it. Promise you. Wasn't me. This is the part many people never studied deeply. Historically, early FHA underwriting manuals. Historically, early FHA underwriting manuals promoted neighborhood stability, racial homogeneity, or homogeneity, I don't know, whatever. You know what I mean. Exclusionary lending patterns. Okay? This contributed to redlining, discriminatory appraisals, unequal access to insured financing, urban disinvestment, wealth disparities. Sound familiar? So FHA helped create mass homeownership, but also reinforce structural inequality in many regions. California was heavily affected by this. Part 5, HUD's role. HUD was later created in 1965 as a cabinet-level department. FHA became part of HUD. HUD's function expanded far beyond mortgage insurance into, right? So we stop right there. So FHA was really about insuring these mortgages. So initially, FHA was about insuring mortgages that they want to put out to the people to sell them on some things. Now, contrary to popular belief, most of these insurance programs and these mortgages were for so-called white people. Why? Because if you actually look at the old films of them people sleeping on the street during the Great Depression, they were white people. Most of these people that came over in the famous form on these boats from these other places as indentured servants and slaves and penal chattel. All right. So the far expanded far beyond mortgage insurance into fair housing enforcement, subsidized housing, urban development, homelessness programs, community development, public housing oversight, disaster recovery, rental assistance, and civil rights compliance. So basically, during this time, HUD stepped in and absorbed FHA because they were abusing the funding and the so-called power that they had. And this is pretty much saying that they were violating civil rights of the people. Prior to that, everything was good until when? Voting rights. You got these people, you have integration, you have all these things going on at that time, the 50s and the 60s. All this stuff going on at this time where so-called black people are moving into these cities, right? They're coming out of their rural areas and they moving into the cities. Why? Because of the, anybody? Homestead Act. Okay? So people are coming into the cities to work, to get money so they can send it back home. That's usually what was going on at that time. So this is where it got different. This is where you had some of these people say, hey, let me get on in with it, so-called black people. But nevertheless, I digress off that. So HUD became both a housing finance regulator and a social policy institution. Part 6, the Fair Housing Act. Now, this is where people often confuse Fair Housing Administration with Fair Housing Act. Two different things, okay? So the Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968. Its purpose, prohibit discrimination in housing. Protected classes originally included race, color, religion, national origin, what you would call also suspect classifications. Later expanded to include sex, disability, familial status. California goes even further. California version is stronger. California housing law is generally broader than federal law. Key California protections come through Fair Employment and Housing Act, California Civil Code protections, tenant protection statutes, disability accommodation laws, source of income protections, which is all violated. They violate all these. California recognizes more protected categories than federal law. All these things are violated pretty much every day, and it's not protected by these things. They pretty much circumvent these. Examples include sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, California housing regulation is deeply intertwined with environmental law, zoning, redevelopment, homelessness policy, disability access, risk stabilization, and yet land use politics. Now, this is the one thing I always say, right? This dang on fly keep bothering me. Get out of here. The one thing that we that I know about California. California's laws are, like it said right there, is equal and sometimes more stronger than federal law. It's not enforced. It's just not enforced. Especially when you're dealing with our type of people, it's not enforced. But all these things, I see the laws, it's identical. You do not need to go too much further in translation to go to federal law to come to California state law. That's the Code of Civil Procedures connected with the federal rules of civil procedure, the United States Code and the California codes, the Uniform Commercial Code and the California Commercial Code. They're all identical. Now, we're going to pass that up. I want to get to my other question. I want to get to my other question for the sake of time. We can come back to these later. I want to scroll down a little bit, right? Okay, so what was redlining? Bank insurers and federal underwriting system literally map neighborhoods. Areas with Black residents, immigrant populations, mixed race population, or poor communities were often outlined in red. Red areas were considered hazardous for lending, meaning FHA insured loans often avoided those communities. Investment dried up, property value stagnated, infrastructure lagged. Meanwhile, suburban white developments received insured mortgages, highways, utilities, schools, investment capitals. California examples of redlining. California has major documented histories of this. Los Angeles, Sacramento, Oakland, San Diego, San Francisco. Let's go to Sacramento. Well, we can go Oakland. West Oakland was heavily redlined. Effects included disinvestment, industrial zoning concentration, infrastructure neglect, declining property values. Later, aggressive redevelopment and gentrification followed. Sacramento, historically Black and minority neighborhoods such as Oak Park, Del Paso Heights, and parts of South Sacramento, which I am from. This Oak Park, Del Paso Heights, South Sacramento is pretty much what you would consider to be, I would say, a 15 to 20 mile square radius where we was mostly all at. All right. Experienced unequal lending access, urban neglect, infrastructural disparities, lower appraisal trends, redevelopment displacement pressures. This affected generational wealth accumulation, and it hasn't changed. Every single bank, you can write this down, it's called the Community Reinvestment Act. Mostly all these banks have the plaque on their wall. If they are a part of the Community Reinvestment Act, you will see it on the wall. The Community Reinvestment Act pays billions of dollars. You don't see it, not too many that I know of anywhere is giving out those funds to any. I mean, if you got a 501c3, any type of C Corp, S Corp, if you got anything that's dealing with community development and all that, they got to run it. But this is what they do, redlining. All right, so let's come down here. Let's get to my next question. Where you at, man? Okay, here we go. So I said the insurance system transformed private lending confidence. Question, private lending. Explain. Question 2, what money are they lending? their money? The reason I'm asking that is because after 1934, HJR 192, Federal Reserve Act / Central Bank, suspension of the gold standard / Article 1, Section 10 and Section 8, Title 18 USC Section 8, etc. Where is the money coming from? Number 3, question. Once housing became federally insured, doesn't that mean it was guaranteed by the Federal Reserve or the government? And after I read this, then we'll jump over to Black's Law. Then I have, okay, we're going to show more in quotes. So when I put quotes, I'm taking the quotes from what the chat stated. So in quotes, housing stopped being merely private. And I put that in quotes. So it became quasi-public economic infrastructure, end quote. This quasi by definition means, this is me, Latin, as if, almost as it were, analogous to. So is it just that name, but really something else? Then HUD expanded further into subsidized housing, public housing, homelessness, That's what they said. That's what the chat said. Also, you stated HUD became a mechanism for managing inequality, stabilized city, So it says you're asking the foundational questions now. Now, just what is FHA / HUD? But what is the housing finance system itself? And to answer carefully, we have to separate legal structure, monetary mechanics, constitutional theory, banking operations, and political economy. Because people often blend them together. Part 1, private lending. What does that actually mean? Private lenders make the loans. We mean commercial banks, mortgage companies, credit unions, savings associations, institutional lenders. Examples. Here you go. They are private in the sense that they are not literally the federal government, but modern banking is deeply interconnected with the Federal Reserve System, treasury markets, federal insurance, capital regulations, securitization, monetary policy. So, private does not mean isolated from government power. Part 2, what money are they lending? This is where modern banking changes the conversation. Modern bank lending is generally not the bank lending piles of existing cash from a vault. Instead, under fractional reserve / modern credit banking systems, banks largely create deposit credit through lending activity. Simplified, you sign a mortgage note. Listen carefully. Practical. You sign a mortgage note. The bank creates a loan asset on its books and simultaneously creates a deposit liability, meaning new bank credit enters circulation. This is why many economists say loans create deposits. That is modern monetary architecture. There you go. You got the history, you got kind of the function, and now you see what this lending is, this private lending is. It just spelled it out for you. Now, if you want to look at something that was done back in 1968, it was a case. It is Daly versus this one bank. I gotta think about it. I'll pull it up. Daly, hold on, let me pull it up real quick. Daly versus Daly case mortgage, 1968. There you go. There you go. First National Bank, a mortgage versus daily. All right. In that case, Daily won the case based on this right here, based on this, where the mortgage banker, the banker came in and testified. The VP of the bank said that they did, based on the note, based on his signature, created the money on their books without lending any money. Now, I know I'm moving fast. It's cool. It played back. It's going to be here. You can go look at it. You can do your research on this stuff. This is what I'm saying, because most people here are going to own a home, have a home, or been in a situation where they had a home or mortgage or a loan on mortgage loans. Okay? So we're going to stop right there on that one. We're going to stop right there on that one. I'm going to take a quick break just so I can just see what's going on in the chat. So I know people coming in and out. I know I'm boring a lot of people. I'm boring a lot of people business. None of your business. Whoever's still here, I'm boring them. They bored. That's good. They need to be bored. They bored. Hey, find something else to do. But what I'm going to do is, let me see. How'd I do? I did pretty good. I was on 30 minutes, right? I was about 30 minutes. It's like 203. It was like 220 something. Yeah, did I do good? I did about 30 minutes on that. Take a quick break on that. And let me see what the chat is saying real quick. What would happen? Neither could. Let me see. New person right here. What would happen if I was to drop my phone down a storm drain? I have no idea. I have no idea. Well, you're talking about those immigration communities, isn't it? Those immigration communities were created. You remember Leave It to Beaver? I mean, if you're old enough, they had Leave It to Beaver. You had, what was it called? Eight is Enough. What was it called? Partridge Family and all this stuff. All them white shows and stuff like that. Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie and all these. If you actually look at what was going on at that time, I mean, I can look at it now from that point. And these were all new communities. These were all considered to be new white communities. The people coming over here after the Great Depression with the FHA. These people were your first FHAs, your first welfare recipients. It just got remixed and they put us in the city. They say, hey, this shit worked. And mostly all those people were indentured servants. 20, 30-year amortization type loans. All of them. Because they were homeless. That's what changed. Then the civil rights came in. Then they said, hey, this works. And there's a book called The Relief System, right? And you also can look at social welfare, the social sciences, civil engineering, things like that, where they was actually constructing a lot of these mechanisms in order to be able to create a society for these people that had just came over here who didn't have anything. And the system actually helped and it worked for them. But they went bankrupt. They did it wrong and messed everything up. And then this is when, World War I came in, World War II came in, in the 40s, and they started bringing over other people. And then, the Federal Reserve Act came in and they had to rearrange things. in order to get these people in. So, but no, them areas weren't. After 1964, during the first Civil Rights Act, that dealt with these preachers and ministers, you know what I'm saying, coming in here with integration. All these people want to come in with the integration thing. And that's what got us in the situations. And then we had to vote. Once you vote and you register for all those things, you now come up be a part of the system. And when you become a part of the system, now the federal government has jurisdiction. You start registering your properties differently. And when you register your properties differently, then you become taxed. Right? You become taxed. Title no longer becomes aboriginal title. Right? It becomes colorable title. Now, what we're going to do here, me. Let me get something going. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, right? Let me go here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come into this place right here, and I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to start with what in the Black's Law 5th, I'm going to go to 1421. I'm going to go to the word prescription. Close this. We're going to come down here to prescribe in prescription. All right. So right here, to prescribe, to assert a right or title to the enjoyment of a thing. Did anybody know that's what that meant in laws? On the ground of having hitherto had the uninterrupted and immemorial enjoyment of it. So over here, right, we're not just Black Americans, we are American Indians. We are Aboriginal Indigenous American Indians thrown into suspect classifications later on known as Negro, Black, Colored, Mulatto, Creole. Native. All right. So, under the circumstances, if you are in that position or in that category, or what you would consider to be by standard form dealing with ethnicity and origin, an American Indian has their origins in America from time immemorial. So you will start here. You guys listening? You will start here. Prescribe to assert a right or title to the enjoyment of a thing on the ground of having hitherto had the uninterrupted and immemorial enjoyment of it. To lay down authoritatively as a guide, direction, or rule, to impose as a peremptory order, or what in California you have a peremptory challenge in court. A peremptory challenge means that I'm challenging you under my authority that you might be a little bit prejudiced to get me because I don't like the way your eyebrows just lifted. So you can go, judge. Get out of here. You can't. Yes, I can. Why? Because I feel a certain type of way. I don't like you. I don't like the way you look. I don't like the way you sit in that chair. I don't like your voice. Get. To dictate, to point, to direct, to give as a guide, direction, or rule of action, to give law. That's case law. There you go, right up under there. Now, if you look at it from that perspective, if you go into any contract, right? We just talking about FHA, HUD. We're talking about mortgages, insurance, loans, so on and so forth. I'm going to give you a foundation. This is your foundation. Are you prescribing to these things? Are you subscribing to these things? If you consider yourself to be one of the first from time immemorial, can't be counted to be that one that is the original here or anywhere else to be that as it may. Are you asserting a right or title? I don't think so. Now, to direct, define, mark out. So if you bring something to me in a contract, American business, let's use you for an example. You present something to me and I know I have the authority. You are coming to me to do something. So this way it can happen, because it can't happen unless two people, right, agree. But you came to me with something, so I can direct, define, and mark out. So if something's in that contract that seems like it's going to clip me at the knees, I'm marking it out. And I will direct and define how I want that sentence in that paragraph or that article or that section to go. All right. Now, let's go down here to prescription. A direction of remedy or remedies for disease and the manner of using them. A formula for the preparation of a drug and medicine. Now, people think that is Robitussin, NyQuil, Tylenol, greens, reds, yellows, purples, fruits, berries, vegetables. No. A direction of a remedy or remedies for a disease. So anything in a contract that might hinder you, that could cause you harm, that could poison something. Fruit of the poisonous tree. It always isn't a literal thing. It could be figuratively that. Okay? So just look at it from that perspective, right? That's your number one. Now let's come down here to the next page. Let's come down here to real property. Oh, you guys didn't know real property fit in prescription. All right, here we go. Real property law. The name given to a mode of acquiring title to incorporeal hereditaments by immemorial or long continued enjoyment. Immemorial. Here's immemorial again. So they say, well, what? I have a prescription. What is your prescription? Here's my inscription. Here's my prescription. I've been here, and my people been here since time immemorial. This is how I acquired title. Okay. Now, Just want to give you that foundation. Now let's go over to the next one. We're going to go to present. We're going to go to present, and present or present, a gift, a gratuity, anything presented or given. So if you present something to me, none of your business, you present something to me in my hands, that is what? A gift, a gratuity. Just gifted me something. I accepted that, but we're going to get to accept it in a minute. Present or present is the adjective, now existing, at hand, relating to the present time, considered with reference to the present time. Present conveyance, a conveyance made with the intention that it take effect at once and not at a future time. It's like a grant deed. Once that previous owner conveys title over to you, it's a gift, it's a present. Here you go. You did your end. Now let me do my end. Let me present you with title. All right. Now, let me minimize this just a little bit. We're going to go over here to presentment. We're going to presentment, and we're going to negotiable instruments. The production of a bill of exchange to the drawee for his acceptance, or to the drawer or acceptor for payment, or of a promissory note to the party liable for payment of the same. Now, what we're going to do real quick, we're going to go back here to the FHA. What money are they lending? Simplified. You sign a mortgage note. The bank creates a loan assets on its books and simultaneously creates a deposit liability. Now I'm working my way back up. All right. So I want you guys to look at that. I'm just scrolling slow. All right. So just keep that in mind. So this is presentment. For those that are coming in and coming out, this is the definition of presentment. And we're going down here relating it right, not to everything, but negotiable instruments. So a negotiable instrument is the production of a bill of exchange to the drawee for his acceptance, or to the drawer or acceptor for payment, or of a promissory note to the party liable for payment of the same. If you look up the definition of a deed of trust, you can look that up in Sacramento Law Library. You can go online, and then when it says promissory note, it also says deeds of trust. So your deed of trust in California is a promissory note. So it's a promissory note. All right. Now, the next one. Let's go to 1263. Negotiability. In mercantile law, transferable quality. That quality of bills of exchange and promissory notes, which renders them transferable from one person to another, and from possessing which they are emphatically termed negotiable paper. Boop. Want me to read that again? I'll leave it there because I got to go up just a little bit more, and I'm going to read negotiable. Because we just have negotiable paper, and they got it in quotes. And it's emphatically termed negotiable paper. Now, what is negotiable? Capable of being transferred by endorsement or delivery so as to pass to the holder the right to sue in his own name and take free of equities against a signer payee. All right. So transfer by endorsement. So I get something, none of the business. I mean, well, none of your business now sends me something, right? Presents something to me in the form of a presentment, making it negotiable. I sign it. I endorse it. And I give it back to them. But once it's in my hands, I am the holder with the right to sue in my own name and take free of equities against a signer payee. How about that? So when it's saying right here, when I endorsed, if I'm getting this correctly, once I endorsed, once I transferred by endorsement, the one that received it back in their hand is the payee and I'm the payor. I'm getting that correctly. Now, let's go down here. An instrument embodying an obligation for the payment of money. An instrument embodying an obligation for the payment of money is called negotiable. So when they send me over that application and I sign that, you got to fill out the application, you need this, need that, need that. Then I get that deed of trust and I got to read that and I got to sign this and that and that. That is an instrument because there's an obligation attached to it. The obligation is for payment. Because if I don't sign it, I don't get any money. But see, here's the trick. Wait a minute, you signed a document, coach. They loaned you the money. No, they didn't. But when you did that, you had the thing. They gave you the 300,000. No, they didn't. Not by this definition. This is an instrument embodying an obligation for the payment of money is called negotiable. We just looked up there what is the presentment, what is a negotiable instrument. Okay. So capable of being transferred by the endorsement or delivery so as to pass to the holder the right to sue. An instrument embodying an obligation for the payment of money is called negotiable when the legal title to the instrument itself, and to the whole amount of money expressed upon its face. So if that dollar amount, that 300,000 is on that paper and I endorse it and sign it and transfer it over, that is considered payment. So, with the right to sue, therefore, in his own name, may be transferred from one person to another without a formal assignment. Negotiable instruments. Any written securities which may be transferred by endorsement and delivery, or by delivery merely so as to vest in the endorsee the legal title and thus enable him to sue thereon in his own name. Or more technically, those instruments would not only carry the legal title with them by endorsement or delivery, but carry as well when transferred before maturity. The right of the transferee to demand the full amounts which their faces call for. Now, let me translate that. But carry as well when transferred before maturity. Carry the legal title with them by endorsement or delivery. So endorsement, if you don't know, means your signature. All right, means your signature. All right, now let's go over here to 283. 283. Going to a bill. Bill, a form of declaration, complaint, or statement of particular things in writing. That is a bill. That's a bill. A formal declaration, complaint, or statement of particular things in writing. As a legal term, this word has many meanings. That's a bill. That's a bill. So when somebody is sending you a bill, they are making a formal declaration, complaint, or statement of particular things in writing. So when you get that bill, what is it saying? Got your name up there. It's got the account number. This is the principal amount. You got the interest amount. This is how much you paid. This is the interest. This is all the things, the formal things they're stating in writing. Okay. Now, did you know that a bill also is a formal written statement of complaint to a court of justice? Did you know that? Did you know bill chamber is a department of the Court of Sessions? Bill of privilege, bill of proof? All right. Did you guys know that? Now we're going to go to 287. Bill payable. In a merchant's account, all bills which he has accepted and promissory notes which he has made are called bills payable. So now you know that that bill payable is a promissory note and are entered in a ledger account under the name and recorded in a book bearing the same title. Bill of exchange. A written order from A to B directing B to pay C a certain sum of money therein named. Files, bills, an open, that is unsealed, letter addressed by one person to another, directing him in effect to pay absolutely and at all events a certain sum of money therein named to a third person. Here's your billing statement as well. So you have your bill on one end, then you have a bill of exchange on the other end. So if you get a billing statement, you got a mortgage, you got anything of that nature. And on top of that, if we go back to the FHA, you go to a mortgage lender, a so-called mortgage lender, a private bank, as we will call them, a private lender, and you go in there and say, hey, I need $300,000 so I can go get this house. I am a first-time home buyer. I want to get approved from FHA. Even if you do it just on a regular deal, they are presenting you something. We need you to do this, 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 and this. And then once that gets done, they say, well, you need to sign this and pay and do this. But at no point in time during the whole process, they're asking you for money. Have you ever noticed that? They don't ask you for money. They need you to sign here. They need that social. They need that date of birth. They need your ID. They need to see this and that and that. They need to run your credit. So-called, they need to run your credit profile. But really, when they're running your credit profile, they're actually going to the Fed window with those identification numbers. So that way they can say, okay, yep, they are who they are. It connects. So now, boom, guess what they're doing? This is where the insurance comes in. When they're insuring, FHA, the government is insuring these mortgages. It just explained, because you know FHA, Fair Housing Administration, came out way before the Fair Housing Act and the civil rights in that matter. This was actually something that was done in order to raise revenue based on these mortgage insurance premiums that was going up that people were paying for at that time. So I just want to give you that. Now, let's go up here to let's go to 517. Or is it 817? 517, 516. Okay. Yep, 517. All right. Letter of credit. A letter of credit, an open or sealed letter from a merchant in one place directed to another in another place or country, requiring him, if a person therein named or the bearer of the letter shall have occasion to buy commodities, or to want money to any particular or unlimited amount, either to procure the same or to pass his promised bill or bond for it, the writer of the letter undertaking to provide him the money for the goods or to pay him by exchange. Now, check this out. This is UCC, Uniform Commercial Code 5-102 definitions. We're going to go right here to applications, right? And I'm going to move. I'm going to move quick. I'm going to move at my pace, all right? I'm going to move at my pace because the slower I go, the more I mess up. I just want to move quick. Let me move quick. You guys got this? This will be posted. It ain't going nowhere. So, number 2, applicant. Everybody see closely? Applicant. This is number 2, applicant. Applicant means a person at whose request or for whose account a letter of credit is issued. What does that mean to you? Just think about that. Everybody has been an applicant. Did you know that an applicant was associated with the issuance of a letter of credit? Let's come back over here. Letter of credit. All right. There you go. Now, creditor. A person, remember, you're the applicant, you're issuing a letter of credit, or an issuance of a letter of credit is created through the applicant. Let's just say that. Now, a creditor, usually if you issue credit, usually that's the creditor, based on what we all know in our normal day, in our normal life. A person to whom a debt is owing by another person who is the debtor. There's the case law. Let's come down a little bit. One who has a right to require the fulfillment of an obligation or contract. One to whom money is due. And an ordinary acceptation, right? Acceptation has reference to financial or business transactions. Another case law. The antonym of debtor. Another case law. The word is susceptible of latitudinous construction. Another case law. So let's go up here. What is credit? What is credit? French, credit in the English sense of the term, or more particularly the security for a loan or an advancement. That's credit. The security for a loan or an advancement. So if I'm issuing letter of credits as an applicant, that means I'm the creditor. That means I am issuing credit. Wow. Let's go back up to 516. Let's go to credible. Worthy of belief, entitled to credit. See, competency. All right. Let's go to 431. Let's go to competent. Duly qualified, answering all requirements, having sufficient ability or authority. Here we go with this authority again. Possessing the requisite natural legal qualifications, able, adequate, suitable, sufficient, capable, legally fit. Now, if somebody tell you that you are not that you cannot get something based on your credit, they're saying that you're incompetent. You're not qualified. You're not answering all requirements. You're not sufficient in your ability or authority. You have no sufficient ability or authority. You possess no requisite natural or legal qualifications. You are not able. You are not adequate. You are not suitable. You are not sufficient. You are not capable, and you're not legally fit. You understand? That's what they telling you. Oh, nicely. They said, well, your credit is just not good. But they're basing it off of what? Oh, your bills and all this stuff. Oh, you have any this? You have any of that? You got any liens on you? You got any of this and you got any of that? This says nothing about what Equifax TransUnion Experian is saying, is it? Competent. Wait a minute. Let's go down a little bit further. Let's go to competency. Where's competency at? Where is it? Competency. In the law of evidence, the presence of those characteristics or the absence of those disabilities. Competency. Not disabled. See, disability, disabled. This is what they're telling you. You're disabled. Which render a witness legally fit and qualified to give testimony in a court of justice, applied in the same sense to documents, or other written evidence. Competency differs from credibility. The former is a question which arises before considering the evidence given by the witness. The latter concerns the degree of credit to be given to his story. Now they're talking about court, though, law. See, this is where you say, well, no, contract is different. No, it's contract law. Everything is law. Everything, and they utilize it the same way. It's just a different venue, but it is applied the same way. But this is the deception that they do. We got two more, and I'm done. We're going to go to acceptance. Bam. Let's go to acceptance. Let's see what acceptance is. So, now your business, American business, issues me, presents, we're going back to our present. You present me something, which is something in writing, which is considered to be a presentment as well. It also is something that is negotiable, right? In which I have an opportunity, right? Through my prescription, I can mark it out. I can show my authority and make sure I stay in a position of power before I do what? Accept. This is what you would consider to be a counteroffer. But the acceptance is this. Once acceptance is made, this is what you're into. The taking and receiving of anything in good part, and as it were a tacit agreement to a preceding act, which might have been defeated or avoided if such acceptance had not been made. The act of a person to whom a thing is offered or tendered, remember that word, by another. The act of a person to whom a thing is offered or tendered by another, whereby he receives the thing with the intention of retaining it. Such intention being evidenced by a sufficient act. Bills of exchange, right? So here we go. This is an acceptance. Bills of exchange. That's what we're talking about. An engagement to pay the bill in money when due. The act by which the person or whom a bill of exchange is drawn, called the drawee, assents to the request of the drawer to pay it, or in other words, engages or makes himself liable to pay it when due. So let's run this back. The act by which the person on whom a bill of exchange is drawn, called the drawee, assents to the request of the drawer to pay it. So let's reverse this thing. The people think that's me. No, what that is, that's the reverse. It's not me, it's them. But this is how they flip the script. How they flip the script is they put it on you, all the liability. That's the flip. Because I issued the letter of credit. Once I issue the letter of credit as the applicant, I am the drawer. The drawer. And they are the drawee. I'm sorry. Me, I am the drawee, right? Because I'm the one that's issuing. I'm sorry, I apologize. Assents to the request of the drawer to pay it. So when I issue that letter of credit, I'm issuing that letter of credit, that application, right? As an applicant, I'm issuing my application / letter of credit. I issue them that letter of credit, that application. I say, once I endorse it, whether I endorse it specially or I endorse it in blank, and I'm going to show you the definition of what I mean by that. They have a duty to pay it, right? Because they have my information, and this is how they got their authorization to deal with me. See, but this is how the redlining connects to our people, because they know this for a fact. But what they do is they utilize our information. That is identity theft. That is deception, willful intent. That's also under consumer law that is considered to be unfair and deceptive practices. Because you just got my information, private information at that, and you utilize it to do something. Because I know you just received an application from me with my signature endorsing. Once you do that by the Negotiable Instruments Act and the Bill of Exchange Act, you can utilize that by the definitions that I gave you as money, as a letter of credit on your books. Should I go back and remind you? What did this say? Modern bank lending is generally not the bank lending piles of existing cash from a vault. Instead, under fractional reserve, modern credit banking systems, banks largely create deposit credit through lending activity. You sign a mortgage, the bank creates a loan assets on its books and simultaneously creates a deposit liability. So just thinking, not just the people that have been approved, what about the people that have been denied? And still they utilize the instruments. Now, let's go to tender. Let's go to the last one, which is tender. 17, I apologize. I went longer than I wanted, but this just started flowing. Tender. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? There you go. Tender. An offer of money. The act by which one produces and offers to a person holding, keep everything in mind, claim or demand against him the amount of money which he considers and admits to be due. So that's the tender. Remember the acceptance tender. Tender was in that. So once the acceptance is done, it is now being tendered. It is considered a tender. To be due in satisfaction of such claim or demand without any stipulation or condition. Okay. The offer of performance, not performance itself, and when unjustifiably refused, places other party in default and permits party making tender to exercise remedies for breach of contract. So once they offer the application, they ask for your information, it's already done. Once you accept that, application, you fill out all the pertinent information, private information that they can utilize to go to that Fed window and they get access to the Treasury, who then loans the money, and then it comes to the bank, and then they put it on their books. But the actual funds are being electronically transferred to escrow or to the other party in the form of electronic or cashier's check money or whatever it might be. That is payment. So if they run through the whole gamut and they approve, they go through the whole shit, you pull out the application and all that, you fill all that stuff out, give them all this information, and they deny you, and they deny you. Exactly. So right here, the actual proffer of money as distinguished from mere proposal or proposition to proffer it. Hence, mere written proposal. Hence, mere written proposal to pay money without offer of cash is not tender. Tender, though usually used in connection with an offer to pay money, is properly used in connection with the offer of property other than money. So you have an application, you have a deed of trust that you sign and you endorse. That is property. See, Another aspect of it, I'm just going to make this quick sidebar on this. When they are foreclosing on property, they're not foreclosing on the house. They're foreclosing on the instruments, the note and the mortgage. That's what they're foreclosing on. Why? Because if you actually, and listen to this closely and take notes, if you actually go to your Schedule A of your preliminary title report, when you bought the house, it says that you own the house in fee simple. My bad, not the house, the land in fee simple. Schedule A, Schedule B, more importantly, Schedule A, that's where you're going to also see the insurance policy. It is usually lender's insurance. So if you go back over that, you say, look, I want owner's insurance policy, not just to the house, not homeowner's insurance. You want land insurance, title insurance that come through the title company and escrow. That's land insurance. That's insurance to the land in fee simple and cannot be moved until you sell that house. It cannot be foreclosed. It cannot be taken. That's why they always mention property. If you go to Schedule A of the insurance policy, it specifically says land and never mentions property. It only mentions estate and land, real. Doesn't mention property. So what is property? Property moves you into a administrative, statutory type of thing because the land is immovable. But that's a digression. But just wanted to put that out there. Now, in closing, we're going to jump down here real quick, and I want you to understand because we deal with court a lot. When I say these things are the same, just a different venue, you could say the same things, just in a different. You could say the same things that just apply to the different venues. All right. Now, tender and pleading. There you go. Tender and pleading. I don't know if you guys ever heard that when they say the judge says you're going to tender that. Yeah. Did you tender that? They say that in court. Tender and pleading is a plea by defendant that he has been always ready to pay the debt demanded, and before the commencement of the action tendered it to the plaintiff, and now brings it into court ready to be paid to him. Did you guys know tender is a plea? Pleading paper as tender. So you got the numbers on the side. The numbers on the side of the thing, that is tender. That is tender. Now, tomorrow, we're going to get into this. This is your Negotiable Instruments Act of 1881. This is Memorandum of Law, Points of Authorities in support of International Bill of Exchange. 3-419, instruments signed for accommodation. This is the Uniform Commercial Code. 3-418, the Uniform Commercial Code, payment or acceptance by mistake. There you go. Real time. Payment, order, definitions. Uniform Commercial Code 4A-103. I'm going to come back to that. Payment, 3-602. All right. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's the one we already looked at. There's more definitions down here. It's Uniform Commercial Code 5. Now, when we talked about endorsement, And we're going to come back to that. I'm going to start off with this. It says, if an endorsement is made by the holder of an instrument, whether payable to an identified person or payable to bearer, an endorsement identifies a person to whom it makes the instrument payable, it is a special endorsement. When specially endorsed, an instrument becomes payable to the identified person and may be negotiated only by the endorsement of that person. So if I was to sign something, you know, none of your business, or American, or offer me something and I sign it and I say endorse, if I make this payable, if I make this payable, to an identified person or payable to bear, and identify myself as that person to whom it makes the instrument payable to, that is special. And guess what? Who has the power? The identified person, and may be negotiated only by the endorsement of that person. Now, if an endorsement is made by the holder of an instrument and it is not a special endorsement, it is a blank endorsement. Now, we've done audits, securitization and mortgage audits on some of these things, even car loans. Most of them have come back with the fact that the mortgage and the security instrument was endorsed in blank. I never knew what that meant. What do you mean it's endorsed in blank? There's a signature there. That's what it means. I found out what it means is it wasn't endorsed specially, meaning it didn't identify what it was supposed to be paid to. So it says if an endorsement is made by the holder of an instrument and it is not a special endorsement, it is a blank endorsement. When endorsed in blank, an instrument becomes payable to a bearer and may be negotiated by transfer of possession alone until specially endorsed. So at any point in time, it can still be specially endorsed. When endorsed in blank, an instrument becomes payable to bearer and may be negotiated by transfer of possession alone until specially endorsed. So what happens is when you make that endorsement, that is a blank endorsement because there's no specific instructions given on what is to be done with this endorsement and with this instrument. From then, they can keep moving it around. This is what it's saying. It could be, it may be negotiated by transfer. So as they sell in a note, right? You start off with Bank of America, then you end off with PHH Mortgage, Onity, or anybody else of that nature that we're talking about that usually picks up these mortgages that you might be paying. This is what they're doing. What Bank of America did, because there was no special endorsement, they then negotiated by transfer of possession to somebody else. They still have some type of interest somewhere on the back end because most of the time, the national associations usually are the underwriters for these things. It's my best guess. Could be true, could be not. But at any point in time, this is where you say, hey, I need my instrument. Where the original wet ink? I need that. They ain't got it. Or they got it and they don't want to give it up because they know, hey, thank you. I want to get that and I'm about to put this endorsement. Pay to me. Right? Nevertheless. All right. I went over time. She said, I'm going to need a drink, bartender. I'm going to need a drink. Hey, look, don't worry about it. None of your business. Do not worry about it. Just get the information. Do what you can with it. You know, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Since cats want to talk wild, I said, okay, let's get it. This is non-negotiable. No pun but this is non-negotiable. I'm going to show you what it is. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, y'all got my email, because eventually we're going to start doing our private, webinars, seminars, workshops, because we got enough people. I'll pop up. I'd rather do it in person, me, myself. You know what I'm saying? But, got my Zoom. We could do that, put it together, and I can show you exactly. Because we're not trying to, I'm not the one to reinvent wheels. I'd rather just deal with what you have. Deal with what you have. If you want to create a trust, you can do that. You want to create a business, you can do that. You can do all that stuff people be talking about, which is cool. My thing is securing and controlling your accounts. Get to your accounts, get control of them, create the relationship. If the account is to your detriment, close them out. If they're not operating like that, what I just showed, close them out. Be able to ask the questions. What I do, I'll give you a full script. Exactly what to say when you walk up in there. No emotions, nice and calm. Ask them, put it on the table. If not, close this account out and give me all my information that I need, because I'm about to file a complaint against you because you was deceptive in your practices, because you didn't give me full disclosure on what other options that I had. You put me in a debtor's position, and really being a debtor, you still are the debtor, and you making me the debtor. I'm the creditor, you're the debtor, based on definition. But outside of that, appreciate you guys. I will, what is it, 4:48? Yeah, 3 hours. Not bad. Not bad. I think I knocked that out. What the first one was like hour 20 something. And then the next one was another hour and 20 something. Yeah. Shit, hour and a half, 90 minutes. Not bad. Not bad. I'm about to put the link in the chat. And if you guys got any questions, ask me. Oh, Richie Rich, appreciate you, man. I did all right. How'd I do? Above a 5 or below a 5? I had to speed up, man, because me going slow, I get to stuttering and messing up. I can't do that. I got to go at my pace. I was messing up. I don't like all that stumbling and stuttering. I had to speed up. But yeah, above a 5, below a 5. How'd I do, man? Give it to me. None of your business. Everybody in the chat, give it to me above a 5, below a 5. You put 5 plus or 5 minus. That's how you do. I like construction. I like to be critiqued. So just let me know how I did. Way above a 5. Appreciate you. But yep. That's what we're doing. So what I'm gonna do is, let me go ahead and throw my 55. That's what's up. Let me throw my little music back on. All right, so you already know what time it is. When I put this song up, when it's over, it's over. That's what we're doing. All right. Hey, this is what we're doing. I'm getting back to my other stuff. I did the civil rights stuff and all that. Just wanted to give you an opportunity, and I ended it off with, what does it take to be a leader? What we know what these leaders be. Now, at the end of the day, you know you have none. Okay. All right, I'm gonna drop you down, J-Dub. All right, so look, under the circumstances, we're gonna get back to it. We're gonna get back to it, and we're gonna make it happen. And we're gonna stop, with all the extras. I think I've shown plenty of enough. Nobody came up and wanted to come up and talk about it, So, hey, let me get back to doing what I'm doing so we can get on to what we got to get on to. All right. So At the end of the day, appreciate everybody coming up here. You know, spending some time with the brother. And on the next one. What's today? Wednesday? All right, we'll be back. We'll be back. God willing. Inshallah. Shalom, shalom. Peace.
I'm the coach, quotes coded in oath with a ghost loaded focus. Chrome in the coat, king with the cloak, smoking that hocus pocus. Infinite styles, pivot and pile up the mileage. I'm wild with the science. You see the line on my avatar, iron jaw pride. I to devour the silence. Why you niggas steady lying? Got me laughing hard, satire and fraud. I fire the squad. Wise get crossed when I'm sparring with all the guards. Author of art, carving a mark in the bark of the market at large. Target the sharks, heart of a Spartan. I sharpen the margin with bars. You rather bargain and dodge. I'd rather you come get your taxes done. Black suit back, room facts in a stack. I'm relaxing the maximum. Get out of the pocket, the profit of rocket. Then I just might tax you punch. Racket your funds, I'm stacking in chunks. Reacting to action, you're begging to punch. Sometimes my community hard-headed, scarred, dreading the lessons. I chart head and start spreading the message. Embedded in pressure, sovereign living. I'm private with it, no corporate percentage. Discharging debt with a pen stroke. You still don't notice the vision. I've been telling y'all you don't want to debate me. Weighty and ready, great with machetes, linguistically shredding the petty. Grab these 15 acres. Landscape major, plan made paper, land patent stamped and sacred since my campaign greater. I ain't talking about Ice-T when I say that I can show you law and order. Court recorder, I sort the torture, contort the border. I eat the case, beat the state, leave a trace of the raw supporter. Briefcase aura, got your baby mama thinking that I'm a lawyer. Seminole Indian sentiment, militant on sovereign soil. Private enrollment, tribal component. I'm the boss if you're trying to employ it.
Gosh, baby, infinite.